landlords desperate for help. Renters, they're not paying up and evictions are backlogged. Now, a Fulton County judge in charge of eviction hearings is taking steps to reduce some of those delays. Atlanta News First investigative reporter Rachel Polanski live at 5 from the Fulton County Courthouse. And Rachel, these landlords, they are waiting for months just to get inside the courtroom.
Yeah, that's right, Tracy, and they are fed up. Pre-pandemic, a typical eviction would take somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks. Now, because of the backlog in the courts and at the marshal's office, that same eviction can take anywhere from 6 months to a year. From DeKalb County,
we're about to lose our house.
To Clayton,
we've gotten no answers.
To Fulton.
I have to cover the mortgage, the taxes, all of the expenses on that property.
Sitting here for 8 months without paying rent.
Landlords are reporting the same issues.
They haven't paid rent since October.
Tenants stopped paying rent.
December.
So they filed for evictions. Months later, they're still waiting for court dates.
A corporation might have deep pockets to cover that sort of thing, but a single or, two-house business doesn't.
And none of these people are corporate landlords. They all invested in real estate to save for retirement. And now, they're all struggling to stay afloat.
It's a financial threat for our family.
Have you ever seen it this backed up before?
No.
Fulton County Chief Magistrate Judge Cassandra Kirk says the delays are partly due to the pandemic, but mostly due to attorney scheduling.
We, like all of the other metro counties, share this pool of attorneys, and they are only available to Fulton on certain days.
Plaintiff is represented by attorney Elizabeth Colson, who's in courtroom 6J.
Right now, those attorneys are only in Fulton County on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons.
It is, Your Honor.
Which is a small window for the 7,000 landlord-tenant cases that must be heard.
This is a pretty substantial counterclaim.
An alternative, if you file for an eviction pro se or without an attorney, your case can be heard any day of the work week.
If you have pro se cases, those cases are moving within 30 days. Not an issue.
Cases will be taken out for mediation.
Judge Kirk acknowledges there's a problem, but says her office is working to reduce delays. And that includes opening up Zoom mediation.
14,000 and some change.
We are always trying to figure out a way for us to work this together because it's uncomfortable for me to hear like cases are taking so long. We don't want to be back at that place anymore.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Atlanta News First investigates also uncovered these delays go beyond the courtroom. Once a ruling is issued, all evictions in Georgia must be supervised by a marshal or sheriff's deputy. And some of those agencies are also playing catch-up. Today, there are 2,600 cases in the Fulton County Marshal's Department waiting to be completed.
It's ridiculous.
And one of those cases involves landlord George Fountain.
The tenant should be vacating the property.
A Fulton County judge ruled in his favor in May, but 4 months later, he's still waiting for the eviction to take place.
It's almost like the laws are to protect the tenants, which I understand, but it's so much protection to where now you're doing an injustice to the landlords and owners who are trying to invest and use those investments as part of their retirement.
After Atlanta News First got involved, Steve Hodges now has a court date scheduled here at the courthouse, while George Fountain now has an eviction date scheduled as well. I do want to point out that out of the 4 people we talked to, 2 of those landlords say when this is all over, this has been such a headache, they plan on selling their properties. Tracy?
Yeah, I can't even imagine how frustrating it is for them. And Rachel, this isn't just about landlords and the tenants they're trying to get out of those residences. What about the ripple effect? Will we feel it, the rest of us?
Absolutely. These eviction court backlogs are also affecting renters and rental prices across Metro Atlanta. That's because landlords are now raising rent and security deposits to compensate for these additional risks. Reporting live outside the Fulton County Courthouse tonight, Rachel Polanski, Atlanta News First.
Good morning. Today is Friday, September 8th. The year is 2023. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting outside on the deck. It's a beautiful Friday morning. Beautiful day. Sun is shining. Not too hot. Not sure what the temperature is going to be today. Let's check. It's going to be a high 88. So listen. A lot of you guys seem to think, a lot of people seem to think that owning investment property is an excellent idea for rental income until everything goes awry. I used to own real estate for investment purposes. And have you ever seen a nightmare of owning homes? Have you ever had rental property? I couldn't imagine owning homes in this environment, trying to rent them out, especially if you've paid, unless you bought the house for back 10, 15, 20 years ago, paid a decent price for it. We're trying to collect these rents today that so many people are asking for such astronomical prices on this rent that it's frightening to me. And then when they can't get these rents, of course, their whole financial plan is ruined because they're not able to collect the rents that they thought they had planned on getting. I know people who are renting homes out for $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000 a month in rent, sometimes more than that. So when his rent is not paid, it accumulates and it can cost thousands and thousands of dollars in back rent. So all I would tell people is, listen, a home might not be the best investment for this purpose. Everybody seems to think that owning a home and renting it out, that might not be best. It might be hard to impossible to collect that rent. And a lot of people seem to think that this investment real estate game is easy. It's not. I know of so many people who had 20, 30, 40 houses who lost them all for various reasons. I know people who bought all these homes and were doing Airbnb in the past few years and trying to liquidate that stuff now. I'm not exactly sure where everybody got the fancy idea that renting out a house, renting out houses would be a good investment. Unless you are a corporation, a large corporation at that. And from what I understand, some of these large corporations, they just slum landlords. They don't even take care of the houses that they own. Invitational Homes is an example. I know people who rented houses and they had nothing but hell with them people. Homes are meant for people to live in, not to be used as investment properties. If you do decide to go down that path, the risk is high, much higher than what people will tell you. I've owned rental property. I've had Section 8 tenants. I didn't have any problems with my Section 8 tenants. If you're going to enter into that realm of owning real estate for investment purposes, it needs to be multifamily, not a single-family house. Single-family homes, if I were invested in real estate, I'd purchase them and flip them. But as for holding them for rental property, the maintenance, the upkeep, it may not even add up. The taxes, the insurance, unless you paid nothing for these houses or you inherited for a very low price. The math don't add up. But so you got all these people who went out who own these homes, and they're stuck now because the tenants, for whatever reasons, have not paid rent. And it's taken them months, maybe even a year, to get those tenants evicted out of that house. Well, that's a tough road right there. That's a tough road to own a home and trying to make this situation work. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. And then when people are complaining because they can't get these people evicted, because all of a sudden their financial plans are ruined because they need this money from this rent. Every person I know who has gone down this path, they have good times and they run into some really bad times. And so my suggestion to anyone is to make sure that you know what you're doing before you go out and buy these homes or condos to be used for Airbnb or rental property. It can be a nightmare. That's why I sold all my stuff and got rid of it. Trying to collect these rents, dealing with these inspections through Section 8, dealing with the property that consistently needs work. Hell, I live in a house, and then I take care of this house, and it still needs consistent work over here. So, I have to be very cautious about people, I think people need to be very cautious about investing in these properties, because this could be very complicated. You could lose everything. I don't know too many people who've had success renting out single-family homes. And I know a lot of people in the real estate game. They may have some success for a little while, then they end up liquidating, especially in a market like this when the home prices are so high. Get out if you can. Everybody I know who's doing well in rental property own apartment buildings, multi-family units. Those people seem to be doing very well. I have a couple of friends who are doing extremely well in that realm of owning multi-family apartment buildings. I only know of one particular guy who has these houses, and he's a slum landlord. He does absolutely nothing to his houses, and the rents are so cheap he don't give a fuck. So these people pay the rent because it's so cheap. See, if you're going to be in the game of real estate, if you have a house where your rent's $700, $600, $700, $800, and everybody else is paying $1,400, $1,500 to $2,000, people who got the cheap rent going to pay. The last house that I rented, I paid $750 a month in rent. It was cheap. I tried to stay there as long as I could. Stay there at least about 4 or 5 years. I could have bought a house, but that rent was so cheap. I said, I'm sitting my ass right here. And if you see the intro to my video, there's a house while I'm driving this car. I was paying $750 a month for that house, and I even went in there and partially renovated that house myself. Because the rent was so cheap. $750. I didn't want to leave that house. Eventually, they sold the property and tore it down. The property was sold for millions of dollars, and it's now townhouses there. If you got cheap rent, fine, stay. If you can get a house and you can charge lower rent than anyone else to make a profit, that's the way it works. You got to have something that people are going to be able to afford. When you got this high-ass rent, people can't really afford this shit. And if they lose a job or have a car accident or something happens, everything goes awry. I wonder why people don't understand that. Everything goes awry. And it could be a disaster. So I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, I'd be very careful with this if I were y'all. Running into these, there's this whole, I see online on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, all these people luring people into this real estate investment game. I think, boy, they just don't know what they're getting their hands into. If you're not a very savvy person, this shit can destroy you. It can mess up your credit, your finances, and trying to take months, to a year to evict somebody who hasn't paid rent. My suggestion is, if I was the person, If you got somebody in your house that hasn't paid rent, you better go over there and get to negotiating with them. What would it cost for you to pay them to leave, if possible, or write off the back rent and say, what can you start paying for this month forward? Just write it off because you can get it back any damn way. You got to be able to be a savvy business person and go over there, and also, you got to be able to talk to the tenant and say, hey, let's see what we can figure out. Why haven't you paid the rent? Let's see what we can work out. They try to do this arbitration in the courthouse to try to get people to work this stuff out. Sometimes you just got to write some stuff off and keep moving forward. But some people be so angry because they ain't paid rent, they ain't paid my rent. I want them out. I just want them out. And so they prolong it even longer, because instead of negotiating with the tenant that's there about them maybe writing off some of this back rent and then moving forward after they've got through whatever crisis they went through. You don't know what people go through. And paying rent, they're willing to continue to fight the evict, go through the eviction process. That might not be wise. Negotiate with the person who's there and see how you can keep them in the house and figure out how they can begin back paying rent again. That might make the most sense. That's what I would do. Y'all do what you want to do. It just is my thoughts and observations from what I did when I had been. Luckily, when I had my rental properties, my rents were very reasonable. And I never really got into a situation where I had to evict one person one time. They had a group of people staying in these houses, and the neighbors kept complaining. It was in Midtown, and it just reached the point where I just said, they were having parties every night. There was so much shit going on over there that I was being harassed by the city of Atlanta. So I had to file an eviction to get them out, and went to court and got the eviction and had them removed from the property. And it wasn't because they weren't paying the rent. It was just they were being a nuisance to the neighborhood. It's another problem with owning. And they paid the rent on time. The best tenants I ever had in rental property I had was these Hispanics. They packed into them houses and they paid their rent on time. They never were late. Never had a late payment. Never had issues with them guys. Yeah, they lived quite a large group of people to a house, but so what? That meant they made sure that they were able to pay them bills. So I don't know. I personally don't want to invest in real estate for rental property unless it is a multi-family apartment building. And then I'd have to have gotten that at a great price so I can offer great rent, a good price on rent. People think I'm going to get $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of rent. It's just a nightmare trying to collect that high-ass rent. Good luck with that. And the eviction rates are sky high because a lot of people have leased these apartments and houses, and they might have went into it able to afford it, and then something happens and they can't afford it anymore. Shit happens. That's part of life. Well, it's just my thoughts and observations, but I'm just saying, y'all, I know a lot of y'all, everybody got these quick rich schemes. That ain't it. Quick headache scheme, a quick way to end up in bankruptcy court. Homes, houses shouldn't be used for those type of investment purposes. Now, I do have some friends who own houses where they've rented out the rooms individually. They seem to be doing pretty profitable with that. Still a headache collecting rents for each individual room. You'd be surprised how many people are renting rooms today. I know a lot of folks. I don't know. People got to make up their mind how they want to proceed forward. And they got to decide. You got to make up your mind and figure out what you want to do. But anyway, I just thought that video was interesting about these people who are renting out these houses and trying to do these evictions and can't get these people out. And they're losing everything in the process because they continue to make a payment on it. So, I mean, it just may not have been a good, wise investment to start with to use that home as a rental property. Like I said, I know a lot of people who bought homes and rented them out. They had a great run, and then until they ran into a disaster, and they ended up liquidating and selling those houses. I know some guys who are millionaires right now, millionaires from own all this property, who are liquidating all their Airbnbs, getting rid of them. because it ain't working no more. And while the market is at this height, it makes the most sense to sell this stuff. If you can get XYZ for your property right now, you might want to run from that shit. These highs that we see in this real estate, we might not see for another 10, 15, 20 years from now. Eventually, this shit is going to come down. It's just a matter of time. That's why they keep pushing up these interest rates. But anyway, don't pay me no attention. I'm just a crazy man on the internet. I'm about to make me some breakfast and sit down and go through some stuff, paperwork over here at this damn house. But anyway, today it is Friday. It is September the 8th. The year is 2023. Before you all fall for these investment schemes with these houses and real estate, and whether you're flipping houses or renting houses, you better know what you're doing. If you're not a savvy, smart person, you could lose everything. You must know what you're doing when involved with this real estate, because it's not what y'all. Some people are misleading you all. I sit here and I watch this stuff on Instagram and Facebook, these videos, these guys, these con artists who run these videos and about buying and selling, investing in real estate. They're con artists. And they offer classes. It's ridiculous. And people go sign up for this shit, and y'all, just be careful. Because if you don't know what you're doing, you could lose everything with this mess. But anyway, that's just my thoughts and opinion. Anyway, I'm out of here Friday, September 8th, the year 2023. I'm out.